Okay, Grace, today we're going to be talking about the articulatory system, and we're going to go over the components of the articulatory system as well as their functions and the cavities of the vocal tract, and we are also going to go over the muscles of the face and mouth.
Cool.
And first we're going to start with our little demo over here, which goes over some very basic systems in the articulatory system. So we have our teeth right here, our lips, we have our tongue right here, the back of the tongue. Then we have pointed out our velum. We have our alveolar ridge. And we also have pointed out where the tip of the tongue is versus where the root of the tongue starts. And we have our muscles singled out here, so this would be the oropharyngeal area right here, and then our muscles would be right up here. So we have the platoglossal arch, and we have the platopharyngeal arch, which is the one below the platoglossal. Glossal stands for tongue, and the platopharyngeal stands for closer to the pharyngeal area. Then we also have our tonsils in our articulatory area. We actually have 3 different types of tonsils in that area. We have our uvula, and then we have our palatine tonsils, and we also have our pharyngeal tonsils. Okay, I'm going to put that guy back right there. So there are 3 main cavities. And there's one smaller cavity. A cavity is a space for resonance. A guitar needs a space for resonance. So in a guitar, you have that little hole in the guitar that makes that resonance. And resonance means to sound again. So it's the sound reverting back. And in our system, we have 3 main ones, which is the glottis in our larynx. We have the pharyngeal area, which is a tube coming out to our oral area. And then we have our oral area and our nasal area. And then one other area we have that is a much smaller resonance area is our buccal area, which is the space between the teeth and the cheeks. There are also 2 main spaces, and like I mentioned before, that would be the oropharyngeal space, and there's also the nasal pharynx space. And there's also the nasopharyngeal port. So the varopharyngeal port, sorry. Articulators are also divided into mobile and immobile articulators. So the mobile articulators would be the velum, which is able to move to close the pharyngeal port, and it's able to close that space between the nasal and the pharyngeal so that you can make different sounds like high vowels and fricatives. And then we also have the tongue, which is mobile, the mandible, which is our lower jaw. I said that with such a New York accent. We have the face is mobile, the mouth, the lips, and the cheeks are also mobile, and our pharynx is mobile. And the muscle. So now I'm going to talk about the muscles of the velum. The immobile articulators are the alveolar ridge, the teeth, and the hard palate. And now I will move on to the muscles of the velum, and we'll go over those because those are important to the articulatory system. So we have the levator veli patina, and that is the primary elevator of the soft palate. And then we have the musculus uvuli, which is basically where the uvula is, and it contracts the uvula and shortens the soft palate, and bunching up the soft palate. And then we have the platoglossal, which depresses the soft palate so that it's back down. And then we have the platopharyngeal, which narrows the pharyngeal cavity, and again, this one also helps in lowering the soft palate, and that allows our nasal articulator to open up for hypernasal sounds. And then we have the tensor vela platini, which tenses the soft palate and flattens it. It also aids in opening up the eustachian tube so that all the liquid that might be building up in our ear is able to get out. And then we can look at the teeth. So the teeth are primarily used for mastation. And mastation, it means the grinding and chewing of food with the help of your teeth and saliva. And the teeth has incisors and premolars. The top teeth are known as the maxillary teeth, and the bottom, and you can't even see it, the top teeth are known as the maxillary teeth, and the bottom are known as the mandible teeth. This is because they are moved primarily by the mandible. And I'm just going to lower that. Okay. And now I'll talk about the tongue and their muscles. So there's two types of muscles in the tongue. There's the extrinsic muscles and the intrinsic muscles. The extrinsic muscles are attached somewhere outside of the tongue, and then the intrinsic muscles are all located in the tongue and make up a majority of the tongue. The extrinsic muscles are the styloglossal, which help to rotate, make a rotate motion in the tongue. Then there's the hyaloglossal, which retracts and depresses the tongue. Then there's the genioglottal, and this helps protrude the tip of the tongue and also depress the tongue. We also have the platoglossal, which depresses the soft palate, as we mentioned before, and elevates the tongue. And then we have our intrinsic muscles. Our intrinsic muscles are superior longitudinal muscle, which shortens the tongue and turns the tip upward. Then we have our inferior longitudinal muscle, which also shortens the tongue but brings the tip downward. And then we have our transverse muscle, which is important for elongating and narrowing the tongue. And then we have our muscles of the mandible. We have two types of muscles for the mandible. We have depressors and elevators. So the depressors are the digastric anterior belly, which depresses our mandible, which again, our mandible helps us move our jaw. And then we have the mylohyoid, the gynohyoid, and the placenta. And then to protrude our mandible, which means to move it forward, we have the lateral pterygoid, and then our elevators are our posterior, our temporalis, and our medial pterygoid. And we also have the temporal mandibular system, which helps with the mobility of chewing, and it makes complicated movements. And then we have some mouth muscles. So some muscles in our mouth. We have one that goes around here, and that is known as the orbiculus oris. Then we have our zygote major and minor, which are located around here, and they help with lifting the lips up. Then we have our levator labii superior, which also helps with lifting up our mouth muscles, and then the depressor labial inferior, which helps with bringing it down. And then we also have aging. So with aging, there are structural differences that change as one develops and grows. One huge example is the teeth. When they're little, they have less teeth, so that changes the sound. Also, the frequency of sounds changes as men develop their Adam's apple. And there's also, as you grow older into older age, the flexibility of the muscles change. They become less flexible, and there's more clarification.
Okay, Alexa. Today we're going to learn about the articulatory system.
Yay!
So here's a nice example of our articulatory system here. So we're going to talk about non-speech tasks such as sucking and blowing, smiling and frowning, and speech tasks that are source filter theory, vowels, consonants, and then gender will be our last point. So the articulatory system is responsible for shaping the sounds produced by the vocal folds, which is the source, into speech sounds we hear. It's a complex interplay of structures like the tongue, the lips, the teeth, and the soft palate, and the pharynx that all work together to modify airflow to the lungs. So we're going to talk about non-speech tasks. So the first one we're going to talk about is sucking and blowing. So these actions rely on precise control of the lips, the tongue, and the cheeks to create the necessary pressure and airflow. The same muscles are used for producing bilabial sounds like P, B, M. In speech, they are also critical for this. So the velum also plays a role, especially in preventing air from escaping through the nose during blowing activities. For smiling and frowning, well, seemingly simple, these facial expressions involve intricate coordinates of numerous muscles surrounding the mouth. These muscles are also directly involved in articulation, particularly in shaping vowels and labial sound consonants like P, B, M, and W. The control is used in forming a smile or frown is similar to the precision needed to articulately position the lips for specific speech sounds. Now we're going to talk about source filter theory. So this theory explains how speech is produced. The vocal folds, we all know as the source, produces a sound wave, and this sound wave is modified and shaped by the articulatories, the filter, into different speech sounds. The articulatories position and movement change to the resonant frequencies of the vocal tract, creating acoustic distinction between sounds. Now for vowels, vowels are characterized by position of the tongue and lips. The tongue height and advancement are how far or how back it is in the mouth, and the shape of the lips significantly affect the resonating space within the vocal tract, producing different vowel sounds. Now consonants. Consonants are produced by constricting or obstructing the airflow in the vocal tract. This constriction can occur at different locations like the lips, teeth, alveolar ridge, and palate, in various ways like complete closure and partial closure. The precise placement and degree of constriction are critical for distinguishing between different consonant sounds.
So what are vowel and consonant sounds? Can you give an example?
Vowel and consonant sounds would be like P, P, D, D, and W, W. Those are some examples. Vowel sounds. Of some vowel sounds?
I wanted you to give me vowel sounds now. Like you gave me only consonants. So
Some vowel sounds now are A, E, I, O, U.
Yay!
There we go. Okay. And lastly, we're going to talk about gender. While the basic articulatory structures are the same across genders, there are subtle differences that have impact on speech. So these differences are primarily due to the size and shape of the vocal tract influenced by hormonal and developmental factors. So men typically have larger vocal tract than women, which can lead to differences in format frequencies and potentially affect the perception of pitch. The variation in size and shape of their articulators, like the tip, the lips, the tongue, can also influence the patterns, resulting in subtle differences in how men and women produce the same sound. So these differences, however, are not major enough to dramatically alter speech intelligibility, though. So that's that.